Welcome to the KUMB Mod Pod, a podcast, or should that be Modcast, where the KUMB moderating team come together to wax lyrical over the latest happenings in the entertaining and never dull world of football. This week, joining me on the show, which just happens to be episode 10 already, are Gnome, Rio, the Pink Palermo, and back on the team this week, DL.
What?
As I say, for episode 10. And so we shall kick off tonight's show as is customary, or is becoming customary now, with a look at, in the words of Preview Percy, the wild and wacky world of association football in our opening section, which we have decided to name A Week's a Long Time in Football. I kind of feel we need a bit of a jingle or an intro tune at this point now. It's becoming a regular. Anyone got any suggestions for that? What can we use?
Why not ring that bell to start off with?
Funeral march.
Like it. The Benny Hill theme tune might be good, actually, for what's coming up. But anyway, let's crack on. Enough of that, or we'll think about that in due course. In case anyone's wondering. Oh, it doesn't work. There you go. I've got a prop tonight. A bell, in case any of us go on too long. But hopefully we won't have to use it. A week's a long time in football, they say. And so it has been this week. For West Ham and for David Moyes and his backroom team, we've made some signings. We've seen some old faces come back. Kevin Nolan and Paul Nevin have signed extended contracts or permanent contracts after coming to the club temporarily last year. But we've seen an old hero return. Stuart Pearce, who was KUMB's Player of the Year in 2001 and spent 2 years at West Ham as a player under Harry Redknapp. He's back for a third stint at the club. Of course, he was previously working under Moyes in his first spell and would have probably come back to the club a little bit earlier this year had he not said certain things on TalkSport which didn't go down too well at the club. Gnome, welcome to episode 10. How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, none too shabby.
Excellent. Hey, what do you think about Stuart Pearce coming back? Is that a good signing, or is he a bit old hat?
It's a sign that Mr. Moyes is beginning to dig himself in for the long term.
Yes.
As you said earlier on, Pearce seemed to have talked himself out of a job earlier on after his last spell. But I guess if anyone can deliver a verbal kick up the backside, it's going to be Psycho too. But well, it is what it is.
Yeah, we should of course point out that he wasn't the original Psycho, which was of course
David Cross.
David Cross, of course, from 20 years or so earlier, and the man who played in the 1980 Cup final, scored 4 goals, the last player to score 4 goals in the league for the Hammers before Mikhail Antonio did at Norwich a few weeks back. Michael, as he was known to his friends in back in the day. Rio, good evening, sir. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm okay, thanks, mate.
Excellent. Good to see you again. Stuart Pearce, what do you make of that one?
Yeah, as Gnome said, it's a sign that there's a little bit of stability coming to the club. Moyes getting them in once. I'm pleased for him, He was never a particularly top-notch manager, but I think his influence and his experience says a lot. And he also bring a bit of decent music to the dressing room. So I think a lot of what they listened, it was a lot of old crap, to be honest.
Yeah, he likes a bit of punk, doesn't he? Or
Indeed, yeah.
Yeah, he's a bit of an old punk rocker, is Pearce. Pinky, talking of old punk rockers, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you over there.
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. I'm good. And Pearce, where do you start?
Yeah, what do you reckon?
Where do you start? What does a coach actually do? If you look at the players who we're likely to sign over the next couple of years, we're probably to err on the side of caution and go for, should we say, the more experienced player, tail end of their career. Are they going to be coached? Are they going to learn anything from anyone? I suspect not. So the job of the coach really, stick the balls out, stick the cones out, sort out the bibs, be the manager's ears occasionally if someone's got a little bit of a whinge about something. But really, I don't think there's any great technical proficiency required. If he's an all-round good egg and the manager's happy with him, I'm all right with that. I think far more important are the coaches you appoint to coach the younger players at the club.
Yep.
I think that might have more technical proficiency attached to it, but Pearce, yeah, good luck to him, and I think Gnome's absolutely called it. You know, this is a battle won by Moyes.
Yeah.
You know, first up, the chairman says he's not coming back.
Yeah.
You know, he was a naughty boy, spoke his mind, and now what we've got is the manager. You know, maybe because we stayed up, but the manager's earned the right to say, "I'll pick my own backroom staff if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman," and I'd like Pearce. And fair play to Moyes for that, because he should be in charge of who he works with. Yeah,
absolutely, totally agree with you there. DL, lovely to see you back, buddy. How's everything at your end?
Oh yeah, getting there, mate. Getting there.
Excellent. Good to see you flying the flag, as we said before the show. Behind you there, Stuart Pearce. What does he bring to the table? Pinky said that it's not necessarily a vitally important role, but what do you think Moyes sees in Pearcey?
I'm not sure he'll actually bring anything, to be honest. But he's a manager's right-hand man now, isn't he? They've worked together before, as has been said. And Moyes has got his man. It's not a bad thing. It can only be good, can't it? If he can pass on some of his experience to Ben Johnson to make him a better player, then it'll be worthwhile. So, yeah, welcome back, Stuart.
Good stuff. Do you think he'll perhaps bring in a little bit of discipline, because we know from his playing career, he was a captain and a leader for Forest, and even at West Ham briefly, wasn't he? He captained the team and sort of seems to be the kind of player that instilled that discipline. Do you see him being able to bring that as a coach as well to perhaps, as Pinky said there, to some of the younger players?
Yeah, with any luck, and even some of the more experienced ones. I mean, he's one of those blokes that you wouldn't really want to get in an argument with. I don't know if he is, if he is actually worthy of the moniker psycho, but he's sort of bloke that you like. Good to have on your side, but you didn't really want to cross him, would you? So
yeah, that's it. One, you'd want to be in the trenches alongside. Of course, here at West Ham, we remember him playing in that cup. Was it the 5th round or the quarter final against Spurs, when it transpired that he'd actually broken his leg during the game, but in sort of true Bert Troutman style, carried on and played afterwards. Pinky?
That's nothing. The Wayne Shelford, when he had his scrotum ripped off in a game of rugby, I just jogged to the side of the pitch and asked them to stitch it back together, and then carried on playing. So, sorry, Pearcey, don't give me your broken leg. Have your bollocks torn off, son, and carry on. Then we'll know you're a hard man. Yeah.
Setting the bar particularly high there, I feel.
I think so, yeah.
Example.
Or low.
Or low, as the case may have been afterwards, yeah. Stuart Pearce, anyway, just going back to what Gnome was saying there about the comments he made, which kind of ruled him out of a quicker return to the club. He spoke to TalkSport, didn't he, in January, when he was asked about David Sullivan and David Gold, and he said live on air, I think the owners felt I was a little bit critical of the regime when we left last time and put the block on my return. I didn't think I was that outspoken, but they make the decisions. They own the club, and you respect that. He did also say, I'm not sure it works to have board members be advised by agents to sign this or that particular player, or to have one agent solely supplying one club. So I guess we'll see how that works out over the course of the next few weeks with Moisey and one or two of the club's favoured agents. But anyway, I think we're all sort of agreed there. Good to see Psycho Mark II, Stuart Pearce, back at the club. What else has been going on this week in football? Well, of course, those little known competitions, the Champions League and the Europa League, or is it Cup? I'm never quite sure, have been taking place in Portugal and Germany this week. We saw something quite sensational. Well, those of us who tuned in did anyway. I was quite fortunate. I never, ever watched the Champions League. In fact, I rarely watch anything football related that is now involving West Ham, but my son wanted to tune in this week, and so we turned on with Barcelona 1-0, I think it was, in the match with Bayern, and they ended up getting smashed off the park 8-2. Rio, have you ever seen anything quite like that before? I mean, I guess it reminds you in some ways of the Germany and Brazil semi-final at the World Cup in 2014.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a little bit of karma, really, because a couple of years back when Barca lost heavily to PSG in a part, was it they called it now, the Parc de France?
Yeah.
And they went back and beat them 6-0.
Didn't they lose the first leg 4-0 or something?
Yeah, the first leg 4-0, yeah. But Barca went back to the Nou Camp and absolutely destroyed them.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm not a big Barca fan. I'm just delighted to see them get absolutely stuffed out of sight. It was an ageing squad. there's a lot of characters there who, dare I say, are past their prime and are reliant on not so distant memories, but there's signs of wear and tear on that side, and they got absolutely ripped to shreds. And I mean, you look at the young left back for Bayern. What a player he looks.
Yeah.
Something we're kind of.
Who exactly are we referring to then when we're talking about the past it players at the new camp?
Well, I think Suarez is on the decline. PK, most of the midfield. They've got two of the worst
generally
fullbacks.
An aging squad all round, really.
They're two of the fullbacks are probably the worst fullbacks I've seen on a side of that stature since probably Arthur Masuaka and Lucas Neal, to be honest. But yeah, no, they're a side in trouble, massive trouble.
Yeah, DL, did you happen to tune into any of the Champions League or Europa League football in the last few days?
No, it ain't West Ham or Gillingham. I don't bother.
I'm with you there, generally speaking. Yeah, I totally understand. Did you?
Not my cup of tea. I did smile. I actually found out about it on the match thread. Kumb. I gave a wry smile. It's always nice to see the big boys getting it handed to them, but give us a pint of bothered with that. Don't involve us. So, yeah.
Do you think that Lionel Messi might end up in the Premier League one day? Now he's failed again at Barca.
Oh, yeah. When he's 39 and he's limping, he'll sign for us.
What is he now? 33, isn't he? I think so. I mean, there's been lots of talk about Manchester City being interested, but it's probably still out of our, as you say, even at 39, he might be out of our price range.
If he was in our league now and someone suggested he was going to sign, you would have Hammerman or whatever his name is, the bloke that does the list, say he wouldn't want him because he's too old.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Hammerman, for those who aren't au fait with the KUMB transfer. Fred likes a list, as Nick says there, and is constantly showing us who he would like to see and wouldn't like to see, and generally surprises people, I think. Pinky, it wasn't just Barcelona who got smashed in Europe at the week. Both Manchester clubs, the last two English teams, and I kind of use that term loosely, were knocked out of the Champions League and the Europa League. Manchester City going out to Lyon in what was said to be one of the surprises, and Man United beaten by Seville the other night.
Yeah, I mean, if we take City first, you've got a manager who's lined his team up as a 4-3-3 pretty much all season. That's how they play.
Yeah, that's
what they normally do. And faced against the might of Lyon, who, is somewhere in France, I'm not sure where. He changes to a 5-3-2 or whatever he played. So you've got a manager with players at his disposal that most other managers could only dream of.
Yeah.
And he allows the initiative to be dictated by the opposition from minute one.
Yeah, that was really strange. That wasn't it? I mean, I don't know an awful lot about.
It's classic, managers being too clever for their own good.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, once they cross that white line and go on the field, the players have got to do it. And I'm a big fan of players playing in settled sides, settled lineups, settled formations, and imposing their game on the opposition and not worrying about the opposition's game plan.
Sure.
And I think Guardiola shot himself in the foot. As for the other Manchester club, again, don't tell me how hard life is. Look at the players at his disposal. Seriously, look at who he's got. Look at the money they as a club have spent, and still nowhere near, the team that Fergie was putting out that was on its last legs. You could argue they were perhaps a little unlucky, but if you don't stick away your chances and you defend poorly, you're going to lose. I mean, Seville have been pretty dominant in that competition for years now.
That's really strange, isn't it? It's almost the name's kind of synonymous with the Europa League.
Yeah, but very much so, and so they're no mugs. So the whole thing kind of points to the fact that maybe the Premier League isn't quite as good as people like to think it is.
Yeah.
In other leagues, maybe not other leagues, but individual teams in other leagues, then can certainly, demonstrate their worth on one-off occasions. Barcelona I'll touch on as well.
Yeah.
What a club in a mess. What a club in a mess. Just when they put the team up, whenever it was Saturday night or whatever it was, Friday night, Saturday night, and they just put the ages by the players, and it was 33, 33, 32, 31. Oh, a 23-year-old chucked in there, then a 31-year-old. And you look at it and you say, teams that win competitions generally are 27 to 27 and a half years of age on average. If you're fielding a team that is 31 plus, well, good luck with that. And my own view is that Messi there now, he can be a flat track bully that will make sure you're always in the top two in Spain, because he'll run rings literally around a number of the clubs they'll play week in, week out. But against the very best, the fact that you've poured so much budget into him means there's nothing left for anyone else. And that's how you end up with an aging squad. And that aging squad isn't good enough to play against the best in Europe anymore. And they've spent big money. They've spent €500 million in 5 years.
Wow. Incredible. As you say, they certainly got found out against what looks to be a very, very strong Bayern team anyway. It's interesting. We'll of course, watch what happens with Messi there. Gnome, I don't know if you happened to see the game, but Manchester United, just touching on Manchester United quickly, 3 semis for them this year. There's a joke there somewhere. I'm not sure if we can...
I was going to say, it's more than I've had.
But I understand it's the first time since roughly 1991 or 92 that there's been no English, Italian or Spanish teams in the semi-finals of the Champions League. What are we to make of that? Is it just a one-off?
Pinky raised an interesting point and raised quite a legitimate question. Maybe the Premier League isn't as good as we think it is. Although I think there's a danger in reading a little bit too much into this particular season's tournament, if you like, both the so-called Champions League and the Thursday night one. Remember, these were, had it been over 2 legs, Barca would have still had it all to do, obviously. But, would you necessarily have bet against, in an ordinary 2-legged situation, would you have bet against either the Manchester sides not making a good fist of it in the second leg? Having said that, I don't think they will, because there's too much money in the original format, which is why we've got the Champions and Europa leagues. But I quite like the idea of getting through to having knockout stages in a sort of end of season tournament.
It was good, that, wasn't it? It was almost kind of reminiscent of the World Cup in a way, where it was dying the game. There's none of this sort of cagey football, home and away, trying to nick a point and 0-0 on the road. It was, it had to be done on the night. So I kind of with you on that one.
Yeah, so it won't carry on. As I say, the whole reason for setting things up as they are with teams that have no more won their championships than I have, sort of getting through. Liverpool won last year's by virtue of having beaten Tottenham, for Christ's sake, which shows you how devalued as a tournament it would have been. But I'll be honest, I forgot that I was going to watch the Barcelona Bayern game, but it'd been such a week work-wise. In my first day back at work after holidays, I was absolutely exhausted. I had an early start and I just fell asleep on the sofa completely.
Oh, you missed an absolute treat there, buddy. Even for the neutral, it was, as I say, it was just like that semi-final with Germany and Brazil.
It would have been 0-0 had I watched it, of course. So
yes,
but but as I say, I don't know if I'd quite like to see that format, but there again, I'd quite like to see the Champions League open only to either a country's champions or the current holders.
What a silly idea! Who would ever allow such a thing to happen?
You could have a cup for the people who've won their national cup competition.
Oh, yeah,
you could call it the Cup Winners' Cup or something like that.
Exactly. DL, I'm just going to come to you quickly to close this section, but Gnome mentioned about the clubs making, a good fist of it if there had been a second leg. I mean, someone who made a complete hash of it the other night was Raheem Sterling. Did you happen to see the miss at the end there against?
I've seen the memes of it, or whatever they're called, where they say, now you know why Harry Kane didn't pass to him against Croatia. No, it was shocking, wasn't it, really?
Yeah.
Oh, mate, I think even I would have done that if I was running to the toilet, you know what I mean? So, no, it was pretty shocking.
Yeah,
but,
it was.
We all have off days, don't we? So, I'm not going to castigate him. Sterling's a great player, so...
Yeah, he's a fantastic player. It was just so close, wasn't it? I mean, the fact, Rio, that it would have been 2-2 and then sort of 35, 40 seconds later, Leon went up the other end and banged in the third, and you got to feel for him a bit, I guess.
No.
West
Hamites, yeah. Not really.
No. I just find it hilarious. He's had the last 2 years, he's had the season like goal scoring records galore.
Yeah.
And when it comes down to the crunch, particularly after last time when they got knocked out by Tottenham, by VAR decision.
Yes, yeah, of course,
when it really mattered, that happened.
Yeah.
Unlucky son, get on with it.
Get on with it. Get on with it, Rio says. Yeah, it was one of those nights he won't forget in a hurry, not for the right reasons, for sure. But anyway, that's enough of Manchester City and Manchester United and Barcelona. Let's come back to
that's the price you pay for him not being a proper striker.
Is that Sterling?
No. Sterling, not a proper striker.
Yeah.
Alan Shearer, who is always my benchmark, would never, ever, ever not score in that situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what a striker does for you.
Yeah.
And playing really fast, tricky players, that's great, but he's not the deadly striker. And that's the trade-off you make. He's very good in other areas.
Yeah,
but a real striker don't miss that ever. Unforgivable.
It was. It was just one of those that you kind of, you sort of see on a Sunday morning and you laugh if you're over the local rec and you see it happen. But to do it on that stage, unfortunate anyway. But thank you guys. As I was saying, let's come back to the teams that matter now. West Ham United, and of course. We are back at pre-season. Pre-season has begun again this week, not at Rish Green, as I've written in my notes here, but I'm sure that's supposed to say Rush Green. West Ham were back there today with new coaches Pearce and Nolan and Moyes, etc., all with the team. And we are off to Scotland, we understand, within the next few hours, or they may even have left already for all we know. We're not quite sure. But West Ham going to Scotland for 5 days for what has been deemed a training camp before we come back to play. Now, this is quite an unusual situation, isn't it? West Ham are going to be playing Wycombe Wanderers, who are promoted to the Championship, and Ipswich Town, who are now, unbelievably, Ipswich down in League One on the same day. Both games on Tuesday, the 25th of August, and in kind of the style of the final round of World Cup group matches, both games are going to be kicking off simultaneously. So a very unusual situation. Pinky, I'll start with you on this one. Scotland. West Ham haven't been up there for a while. We used to do it quite frequently back in the day. But what do you make of all that?
I think it's a victory for common sense.
Yep.
I mean, Paris thought have a pre-season tour, in a part of the world where you're not half killing the players to get to, so they're not getting jet lag and all the rest of it, and where supporters, if there were games that you could attend, could actually turn up and have a look at maybe some new signings or some of the old established players. I mean, originally, before COVID and what have you, we were slated, I believe, to play Glasgow Rangers in a pre-season friendly.
Okay.
Which I can well imagine there would have been rather a few thousand of our lot doing the trip up there. So I suspect Strathclyde Police might be quite happy for a bit of COVID, if you know what I mean. Because Rangers supporters aren't exactly quiet, shy, and retiring. But I think common sense, and for the players, they've only had a couple of weeks off, really. There shouldn't be too much timber to shift. I always think back to the state Carlton Cole got into when he'd been released by the club, and within 4 months he looked like me. Well, physically, if you know what I mean. And you're thinking, how does that happen to a professional footballer?
Yeah.
How can they do it? But they do it.
Yeah.
But I think in 2 weeks, I think we'll be safe. I don't think there'll be too many pizza guts and so forth. So, a few gentle run-outs ready for the big thing to start again in about, 4 weeks, something like that?
September the 12th, I think it is, isn't it? Yeah. So just about 4 weeks from now. Yeah. So thank you, Pinky. DL, Scotland. It's been a while since, as I said, West Ham were up there, but what do you think of that? I mean, do you think we're going to learn much? Do we really need much for pre-season this year? Bearing in mind we've only just finished the season.
I think it's a great idea getting the cold weather training in now. Yeah, gives them something to do, doesn't it? I mean, what they say, 3 weeks they've had off. They're not going to get full of Tim, and they're professional athletes, even I'd struggle to put weight on in 3 weeks. Yeah, good idea. It's not going to be too warm, not going to be too cold. It's going to be the same sort of conditions as the start of the season. Yeah, let them go and have a bit of haggis and a bit of iron brew. And Scottish women are filth and all, so they'll enjoy it out there.
I'm tempted to ask if you've ever tried haggis before.
No, I've tried Scottish women.
We'll pass over that one, I think.
It's all right.
For another
haggis is okay.
Haggis is foul. It's disgusting. I have
That's
taken
right.
Bloody awful.
No, actually, I have actually had haggis. It is quite pleasant. It
looks like I'm the odd one out here then.
It tastes. It's I was there to eat it by my Scottish granddad when I was younger. And they said, I have some of that. Dad, what it? Oh God, I put it on the chest. So we didn't put any on my head. But nonetheless, it was nice, and I have had one in a restaurant before. So
right, you chose to have haggis in a restaurant.
I did indeed. Yeah, I just fancied something. It was all the normal restaurant fare, and I just had haggis. And I thought,
and we'll have
some of that with tatties, and that's what I did.
Of that. It's Rio. We seem to have quite a few haggis things you learn on the Mod Pod. Fans of haggis. Rio, are you a fan of haggis as well?
Never tried it.
Oh.
I've tried many a thing in my time, but no, it's just when I read the ingredients, what it was made of once, and I just thought, you know what, sheep's stomach doesn't really appeal to me at the moment, so I'll pass.
Yeah, sausages if I were you, then, mate.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of them either.
I kind of feel we're sort of delving into terrible stereotypes. It's talking about haggis and lads from Glasgow and Scottish women, but we'll try and maintain a bit of decorum for the rest of this section. Rio, let's have a quick word about those games coming back. Well, what do you think of that situation? Playing Wycombe and Ipswich on the same day. Apparently, we're going to send half the squad to face Wycombe and another half a squad up the A12 to Ipswich. So what do you think about that? Good idea?
Yeah, why not? I mean, it gives a run out for not just the first team squad, but it's going to have to be bulked up by some of the younger players. Bit of experience for everybody, isn't it? So why not? Why not indeed?
Yeah, we do love a game against Ipswich in pre-season, don't we?
Oh yeah, I've been to a few up there. Pretty nondescript old. I mean, I hate friendlies anyway, but I've been at Portman Road a couple of times, and I just hate friendlies. I don't know why I bother doing it. I think it's just because it's close. Yeah,
I suppose it's only a quick run up the. One word of advice: don't ever park in that bloody multi-story opposite the ground because you'll never get out of it. As I found out to my chagrin a few years ago. Gnome, Ipswich. What about Wycombe? We don't really know an awful lot about Wycombe, do we?
No, not really. It's unusual sort of playing the two teams at the same time, but
strange.
Yeah. Wonder if Ipswich and Wycombe are also playing somebody else. Perhaps they're playing each other somewhere halfway between. That'd be interesting.
Well, funnily enough, I did read somewhere in our local newspaper that Southend was supposed to play Ipswich in pre-season, and that was called off, which meant West Ham could play Ipswich instead. So there you go. I can give you some exclusive inside info on that live here on the Mod Pod.
I mean, I'm kind of with Rio on pre-season friendlies. They tend to be sort of not pointless because the manager will learn something about his players.
Yeah.
But for the fan attending them, it's more about having a day out, usually in some decent weather, or in Kitzbühel in some bloody horrible weather. But
that was that was exceptional that day. It was kind of like, I don't know what it was. Just I think it's the wettest I've ever been at a football match. Actually,
yeah, I'm still drying out. It was one of those ones where you got back. I had a sort of supposedly waterproofy Anoraki thing on top, and even through that, I was wet. I got back and I was peeling my shirt off. It's horrible.
Who did we play that day? Was it Athens? Was it not AEK?
Panathinaikos.
Panathinaikos, the other Greek team.
Yeah.
1-1, wasn't it? I think, if I remember rightly.
I think we won 1-0. Hitzelsberger free kick.
There you go. Shows how little I know. I do remember that raucous band of supporters. It was about 30 of them letting off flares inside what was a little more than an athletics stadium in the middle of the mountains in Kitchener.
There was a goat halfway up the mountain, wasn't there, just watching the game? I do remember that.
I think that might have been Louis Boa-Morte. I'm not sure. But then
you had to find another hotel room when we got back, but we won't go into that.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, moving swiftly on. This Friday, the Premier League fixtures for 2020-21 are announced. As of course, we said this last week, didn't we? The predictions are out. There was a story in one of the tabloids today saying that the opening day fixtures had been leaked. We get that story every year. It rarely turns out to be correct, but it's there we go. It's a bit like Gnome's, what's the phrase, season opener that you look out for every season.
Traditional curtain raiser.
Traditional curtain raiser, that's the one. That's the one. So we have those. Rio, going to start with you on this one. Who do you want to start with on the first day, and who do you think we're going to get?
I think we'll probably end up with Liverpool away.
Okay.
Who do I want to get?
One of the new teams, perhaps?
I really don't care. I mean, it's because we can't actually go to games.
Yeah.
It's kind of thrown me off a kilter, because normally I would have said, I'd love to have Tottenham at home or Tottenham away.
Yeah.
Just got off the season with a bit of liveliness.
Yeah.
But it's just so weird. I'm trying to think I'd actually like to have Burnley away in the first opening game, so I don't have to bloody well go there again.
A good opportunity to rule that one out. Pinky, you are, of course, another erstwhile traveller on the road. Were you kind of with Rio on that? We'll get some of the, the northern hellholes out of the way early on, so we don't have to go there in the event that fans can go again.
Yeah, I mean that'd be my normal rule of thumb, but Watford got relegated. But if you're talking about the real grim north, absolutely, yeah. You always look to do northern teams away, either right at the start of the season or right at the end of the season. So you're travelling in daylight hours, so to speak. So for me, Everton away would be a good start. Liverpool away. I mean, Merseyside.
Yeah.
A bit miserable at the best of times, but if you've got to go in the summer. The fact that we're not going makes it even better.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a Scouse pie at Goodison Park? Absolutely diabolical food, awful food. But yeah, something like Everton. I mean, what you don't want to do is have a fixture against a team that you might actually want to watch. So Everton aren't really a favourite of mine. They'd be the one that I'd strike off the list, and possibly wouldn't even watch it in the pub if it was on.
Who do you think we're going to get?
Liverpool at home.
Liverpool at home. There's a theme developing here. We have added this thing, haven't we, in the last few years about landing some of the big teams at home. DL, do you see that reoccurrence or that reoccurring again this year?
I'm going to go against the grain and say no.
Okay.
Because you remember, the only reason that we seem to get the big clubs and stuff is because they've got this little algorithm, haven't they, where certain clubs can't play at a certain time and on the same day as this club. It ain't going to matter over much at the start of this season.
Yeah.
So I just want a winnable game.
Yeah.
That would be nice. A winnable game. Don't care who. And I don't care how we do it. It'd just be nice to win the first game of the season for once, get 3 points on the ball early. Who do I want? I don't know. I don't really care. It's just someone we can beat.
What about one of the newly promoted teams, perhaps? Or do you think that's a banana skin, really?
See, that is, isn't it? That's like a bit like Cardiff, isn't it? When they beat it, was it Cardiff that beat us 1-0 at the start of the season? No, they're too slippery. They're gonna, they're going to be up for it It's their first game in the Premier League, fans or no fans.
Yeah.
Unless it's Fulham. I wouldn't mind us doing Scott Parker, which would take us actually to another thing that's coming up. Yeah, Fulham. There we go. I would like to have Fulham, and I want us to thump them.
Good stuff. Yeah, I think out of everyone, that's probably our best chance the way it's turning out. Who haven't I come to? Gnome, I haven't asked you for your thoughts on this one yet. Who do you think we're going to get, and who would you like us to get?
Well, as we say, every year somebody publishes a fixture list, and over the last few years, so people have got to extraordinary lengths publishing a whole season's worth of fixtures, which have been like complete and utter twaddle. And I think I mentioned last time, I did actually work for a while for the company that they outsource all the computer stuff to do on that. Yeah. I'd always say any chance then of a heads up, and you stand more chance of getting something out of MI5 or MI6, really. But the interesting thing about this latest, in inverted commas, leak is that it came out of the Premier League's own website and in their Fantasy League section, as opposed to some chance of just sort of posting up and saying these are the fixture lists and everyone's sort of swallowing it. So I don't know, maybe there is a little bit more in it this year. I don't know. But as with everyone else, who would I like to see us play on the first game of the season? Someone away somewhere that I don't particularly like going. Sorry, Charlotte, Burnley away, or even Man United away. I'm not over fond of Old Trafford. Everyone raves about it. But who do I think we get? It's been 7 seasons in a row we've had one of the top 4 or 5, haven't we? Or something like that. Yeah. Or Tottenham. So it'll probably, we usually get whoever are the champions. So they like to do that to us, even though they say it don't. So I suspect we'll get one of those. But let's face it, who knows? Yeah. Anything's just pure guesswork.
Yeah, that's it. I suppose it all evens itself out over the course of the season, to use a common trope that's often applied to all sorts of things. But yeah, it's we shall see. Anyway, of course, we've had the leak this year. We shall see if any of it bears fruit. As Gnome points out there, it's from a slightly more reliable source.
The League Cup, the first 4 rounds are all in September. Is that right?
So we're led to believe that's right. Yeah, they had the draw for round 1, didn't they, earlier this week?
Yes, first round's been played this Saturday, unusually.
Yeah, I just wonder, with the transfer window staying open till October 5th, if a number of clubs, for financial reasons, almost chuck their opening few games. For the point of view of, why would you sign a player that's going to cost you 70 grand a week if all he's going to feature in is the League Cup in September?
Yeah.
Sign him on October the 4th. And we're seeing this more and more with clubs signing players late in transfer windows, purely because they don't want, the extra 70, 80, 90 grand a week on the payroll cost. And I think this year, more than most others, we'll see a lot of clubs doing late business in the transfer window, mainly because they'll just see September as a warm-up month.
Yeah, it's very, very strange, isn't it? I'm just having a look now to see when the rounds are. So round 1 takes place on the 5th of September, which is, of course, not that far from now. And as Gnome rightly points out, is a Saturday, which is obviously very unusual for that competition. Round 2 takes place 10 days later, the 15th and 16th. Round 3 the following week. Round 4 takes place in the final week of September, the 29th and the 30th. The 5th round, which probably won't have anything to do with us by that point, if the last few seasons are anything to go by, takes place on the 22nd and 23rd of December. So a real Christmas treat for someone there. An extra game in the semi-finals on the 5th and 6th of January, which I'm not sure when that is, but I mean, that's kind of Rio. That's sort of FA Cup 3rd round territory, isn't it? The 5th and 6th of January.
Yeah, that's one of my boys' birthdays, 5th. So, yeah, that's normally go to the 3rd round of the FA Cup. That's very strange. But...
Yeah, sorry, I'm just looking at the date. So the 5th and the 6th of January is a Tuesday and Wednesday, which means the FA Cup presumably will be the 3rd, the 2nd and 3rd. Is that perhaps a little bit too early for for the cup. The next weekend, of course, is the 9th and 10th of January. What do you reckon on that?
No, I still think it'd be the 2nd and 3rd, to be honest.
You reckon it'll be that
yeah.
soon?
I mean, who knows what's going on in this bloody world at the minute? So
yeah. You got an interesting anomaly came up a few years back around that time when you had the FA Cup and the League Cup semi-finals that were over 2 legs.
Yeah.
And Tottenham and Wimbledon played each other 5 times in a row because they were drawn together in the FA Cup. There was a league game. The FA Cup went to a replay, and then the 2 legs of the League Cup semi-final. So, and there were no other games in between. That was all it was for about 2 weeks.
Yeah, they must have been sick of the sight of each other by the end of that one. If they
The thing is, though, does the League Cup win get you a place in Europe?
It does, doesn't it? It's usually the Europa League. If you don't already, it gets a bit complicated. But if you don't already fall in a Europa League spot, then you'll get a place due to winning the League Cup. But it's obviously the last couple of years, it's usually Man City win it anyway. So, which is why then.
I just think
to say about that,
season,
Pinky.
Because this season, because you look at Wolves have just finished a 13-month season.
Yeah.
Manchester United, the same. There's a few clubs who've got players who are out on their feet, and they might just decide the early-ish rounds of the League Cup they're simply not going to bother with. And it might be that, do you know what, if we target that competition, so we're going to take it seriously, you could find yourself in a semi-final quite easily by virtue of the fact that other so-called big clubs just aren't bothering with it this season because of the wear and tear on the players. And, what a boost that would give our support to actually, get into Europe yet again when we can't travel. Because we'd all bloody love that, wouldn't we? But I just think, that's probably our easiest route to Europe. It's give it a go.
Yeah, what are you talking for? 5 or 6 games? The semi-finals, I think, are single leg affairs, aren't they, this year in the League Cup?
Everything's single leg this year now. Yeah.
So Pinky says 5 or 6 games, you could find yourself in the mighty Europa League. It's certainly something that, well, it hasn't really worked out for us so far, has it? In our brief, appearances prior to this year. But wouldn't we love that, the opportunity to watch West Ham play in Italy from the comfort of our own front room yet again? But anyway, we shall see. Who knows what's going to happen? That's it. That's the wacky world of association football done for another week. We're going to move on to our From the Forum section now. This is something that we've been canvassing the members of KUMB on this week. The question was, can you name some players you wish had signed for West Ham within, to keep it realistic, as it were. We're not talking about Lionel Messi or players like that, but lots of people had lots of different names come up. I mean, Sanchez mentioned Hannu Tiernan, who, as some of you will recall, played out of his skin that day at Old Trafford when we beat Manchester United in the FA Cup 4th round, I think it was. Paolo Di Canio scoring the only goal in the 76th minute. And he also played against Tottenham, didn't do so well. But Sanchez said, I followed West Ham United since birth, but the win at Old Trafford in the FA Cup when Tiernan made his debut really made me fall deeply in love with the club. That team, since that match and with the passing of time, I've put on a pedestal, and I thought Tiernan looked the nuts and can remember being really disappointed that we didn't sign him full time. He also offers an honourable mention to Hugo Porfirio. FJ the Grey mentions Nico Cranshaw, who he says was really underrated and a versatile midfielder who he was sure would play for us at some point. He seemed to follow Harry around, but he always felt like a West Ham free transfer, a couple of decent seasons type player. I have some more, but I'm going to come to our panel first of all for their thoughts on this one. Dio, I'm going to start with you on this one, buddy. Players you wished had signed for West Ham but never really got round to it. Who do you think of immediately when posed that question?
Kerry Dixon.
Kerry Dixon. Now there's a great blast from the past.
Yeah, I remember we were linked to him when I was much younger. and there weren't highlights reels then. He was a name that I heard of. He was actually the first ever bloke I'd known who had a name called Kerry, which kind of, I know it sounds really stupid, but it got my attention. And you'd see on the old video printer on grandstand, his name come up that he scored goals, and then on the back of the Sun where he was linked. And I really, just because he was called Kerry, I wanted us to sign him. And the fact he kept coming up on the video printer, that's, you know, because that was my way of judging a player back then.
By their name.
I know their name on the video printer. They must have been good. If you score goals, you're good, right? That's what I thought when I was like 8, 9, 10 years of age. So, no, shame we never got him. I really wanted us to get him.
Fabulous player for Chelsea over the years. Did he come from Luton?
He did, yeah.
It was Luton he signed from.
Reading he was at as well. I can't remember which order it went around, but
Reading, perhaps.
yeah.
I guess he would have been at Reading
first.
first.
Doing ones that we had the irrational hatred for as well.
Yes, go on. Throw that one into the mix. Yeah, go on. We were
Scott Parker.
Scott
Hence
Parker.
why I want us to do him. Good player, but there was just something about him I really, really want to slap. I don't know why. I just don't like the bloke at all. I think it's because every time he has his photo taken on the pitch, he's Gurning champion of 1995. It's just the faces the bloke pulls and just stop it.
Have you seen
really fucking annoys me.
Dio, have you seen the video where someone has set his post-match interview from the playoff final to one of the Streets tracks?
Have I seen the video?
Yes.
Well, quite ironically enough, a certain G. Howlett did like it on Facebook when I posted it, and then about 10 minutes later, it appeared on KUMB.
Scandalous. Scandalous. See, this is the thing. I plagiarise stuff from people, and I can't even remember where I get them from. Asking you that on the show, but it was good though, right? It was definitely absolutely fantastic piece of work. You're actually so now there's something we could discuss at another point. Footballers with sort of girls' names or even sort of unisex names. I mean, you don't see many Leslies playing football these days, do you? Yet we've got Tammy Abrahams at Chelsea, I suppose. So it's I suppose it's still there, but maybe that's one for another show. Kerry Dixon. Says DL Rio, coming to you. Who? I mean, this was your question. You came up with this question for the show, so you must have been thinking of someone at the time. Who do you put up for selection in this category?
Around the same time as DL mentioned when he was linked to Kerry Dixon, I've got a name from there, but that's Mick Harford. I thought he would have done a marvellous job for us at the time. But there was a player, a left winger at Orient called Alan Comfort. It was an absolute glorious player. And it was around the time when Dev's career was winding down, the injuries had taken their toll.
Yeah.
And when I couldn't go West Ham, I used to pop over Brisbane Road every now and then. And Alan Comfort used to light the place up. Eye for goal, tricky left winger, would have done a marvellous job. And he ended up going to Middlesbrough, I think, for 250,000. But I was so gutted when he went there. Unfortunately, his career ended quite soon afterwards and he moved into the clergy. But yeah, Alan Comfort was a marvellous little player. I really wish we bought him. I
must confess, I've never heard of him in my life.
Got a payoff, that would have been a bit of a softener.
Yeah. I'll have to go to you. Mick Harford, of course. Rio was quite scathing of West Ham's attempts to buy him.
Yeah.
I seem to recall.
Very much so, yeah.
86, 87, we tried to buy him.
I think it was 88, 89 season. We tried to buy every striker in the world, didn't we? Because Cotty had gone, Frank had gone, and just before we ended up buying Leroy, didn't we, in the end? But, yeah, we tried everybody. And as the famous line went, even the man from Denwanty said no to us.
He was a big, awkward bastard, I think you might describe him as, Mick Harford, and certainly scored goals, didn't he, throughout his career. What about the West Ham player you never really sort of... We'll touch on this now as Dio has opened this particular can of worms. Who would you vote for this section?
Steve Lomas.
Steve Lomas. Oh, of course you'd say.
No, everyone... I get a lot of stick on the forum for even mentioning that. But we had a team of artists, didn't we? We had Bish and Moncur, we had Di Canio, and it's this ginger-haired Irish guys in the middle who could barely string a pass together. He disrupted the play. When we played against Arsenal, we were missing a few times. The worst thing was a couple of months back, I went to a West Ham function at over Dagenham, and they had a lot of ex-players there.
Yep.
And Lomas was one of the players there. And I don't know if somebody had told him or not, but we went round asking for photos and a little chat and that. And as he agreed to do the photo with me, he put his arm around me and he squeezed me tighter than I've ever been squeezed in my life. And I thought I was going to pass out at one point, but yeah, he's a thoroughly nice guy, you know. But at the time, I don't know, I just couldn't get on with him.
I remember now. Actually, it always we used to have quite a good chuckle over that, didn't we? In your irrational hatred of Lomas, but scored one of the best headers I've ever seen. Anyway, I'll give him that against Manchester United. I think it was that stupid game where we lost 5-3. I think Beckham scored, chipped David James from about 40 yards, didn't he? Right in front of the old West Stand. But very, very divisive character, Steve Lomas. Thank you, Rio. Gnome, over to you on this one. The player you wish we'd signed and the one for whom you held an irrational hatred. Or
the one I wish we'd signed, and I'm going back about 50 years, whatever. After the 1970 World Cup, we had a player on trial, and he was the captain of Israel, a guy called Mordecai Spiegeler.
Mm-hmm.
And during the World Cup, everyone said, actually, this guy's quite a player. And he was a cultured midfielder, perhaps in the Brookings sort of mode. And he had trials. I think he may have even played it in a pre-season friendly, possibly abroad.
Yeah.
And such were the rules in those days, we couldn't sign him. The FA had a ban on foreign players that only got lifted several seasons later.
Okay.
When the first team to take full advantage of that were Tottenham, when suddenly you had Villa and Ardiles turn up. But Spiegler was a decent player and would have been sort of something fresh and new to the league.
Yeah.
And as I say, but they just simply, the FA just turned around and said no, against our rules, he's not Commonwealth.
Yeah.
And which there were certain relaxations for people who'd been here for a fair few. I think Newcastle had a Danish guy and sort of playing for him at the time. But
who was that? Sorry, just touching on Newcastle quickly. Who was the Brazilian they were playing from in the early 80s?
Mirandina.
Mirandina. There you go.
Where I still take the mick out of my good mate Cragsy, because when he signed, they all sort of wore sombreros, the traditional Mexican headwear. It's over there somewhere, isn't it? Yes, I still take the mick out of him for that. But
irrational hatred. What about your irrational hatred?
Well, I'll just say, just to finish Spiegeler off, in the end, when the deal couldn't be done, he ended up playing in the French league for, I think it was for Nantes, and having a good career over there. So, I could never take to Don Hutchison. I just didn't see what he, and this is purely on footballing grounds. I just couldn't see that he brought anything special to the team.
On neither occasion he played?
No, I just couldn't. Yeah, I say it's one of the players I never met, but probably a very nice guy. But I just couldn't take to him. It was, he got a few goals here and there, but no, it just didn't sort of inspire, shall we say.
Poor old Budweiser Don. I mean, the second spell he was mostly injured, wasn't he? Since I believe we signed him when he was Sunderland's Player of the Year, wasn't he? And we paid something like $5 million to bring him down to the club, and he promptly played a handful of games and then got injured, and that was pretty much it for Don in his second spell anyway. But thank you, Gnome. Some good suggestions. That's a great shout. Spiegeler.
Something like that.
Very decent player. As you say, went on to have a good career, but unfortunately not at West Ham. You talk about actually players from that area. I'm kind of reminded, who were the two at Ipswich? Was it Arnold Muren and Tyson?
Muren and Tyson, yeah. And the other guy they had, they had another Dutch guy who got caught importing he had a car full of special interest videos, shall we say, and he got caught at Harwich driving on his way. Romeo Zondervan, was it?
Zondervan.
Yeah,
there's
played
a blast from the past. Yes, the days when, long before Harry Redknapp's Foreign Legion and the advent of foreign players coming into the Football League. We, of course, had a little bit later, but Frankie van der Elst, I think, would have been one of our first, wouldn't he? He was an absolutely tremendous player, bought on the back of ruining West Ham a few years prior to that in the Cup Winners' Cup final for Anderlecht in '76. But anyway, I digress once again. Pinky, coming to you finally for this section. I saw you raise your eyebrows when DL mentioned Kerry Dixon a little bit earlier. I take it you're not a fan of the ex-Chelsea man, but...
No, not at all. It's just back in 2002-3, myself and a mate, Fat Tony, we were in one of the corporate lounges at the Bridge when we played over there that day.
Yeah.
And Kerry was working the lounge, as the host, taking questions from the assembled worshipping crowd, so to speak. And me and Fat Tony were there with a Chelsea lad, and don't misbehave, lads. Whatever you do, don't misbehave. So of course we asked the question, what's the chances of us getting into Europe this year, Kerry? And he waffled on and was like listening to himself, doing one of these podcasts. He went on and on and on. And basically saying, if we play really well, Chelsea have got a good chance.
Yeah.
And I couldn't stop myself. I said, not Chelsea, you wombat, bloody West Ham. As me and Fat Tony are sprinting out the corporate lounge with teaspoons and the rest of it being slung at us. But, for me, a player that I really wished we'd signed, Berbatov. I thought he was the most West Ham player never to play for West Ham.
Yep.
Bone idle. Run? What? No. Those lot do the running. I am special. Give me the ball in a nice part of the pitch, kind of player. But I thought he was a marvelous footballer. That would have graced our colours for sure. And I think it's the night we were up at Old Trafford, and I think we were holding them 0-0, something like that. In about the 80th minute, 85th minute, he just a lovely bit of magic. Did James Collins, and they bagged all 3 points. And he was a sort of player that would just make the difference. So he was certainly up there. In terms of one that I never warmed to, I'm going with DL here, and I'm going with Scott Parker.
Yeah.
Scott's a magnificent professional. He was an excellent player for us. He was a very, very good footballer. But he was never one of us.
Yeah.
Same as he was never one of the Chelsea mob, Newcastle, or even Charlton.
Right.
Wherever he played, he was always passing through. And, we touched on it the other week. If you want to put a long-term bet on for who's going to be England manager, I'd go with Parker. He's the consummate professional who offends nobody, always minds his P's and Q's, will be just about good enough to climb and do whatever's necessary within the FA.
Yeah.
But he's one of those guys that he is always just passing through. Yeah. He's never your player. He'd know nothing of West Ham United's history. He wouldn't even have bothered looking at it. Did his job as a pro, but it was doing a job. And there for the paycheck. And for me, terrific footballer, but not one that I'd ever love. Never in a million years.
Really interesting to hear those comments. As you say, you and DL both going for Scott Parker. I think for me with Parker, it was more, I kind of fell out of love with him after he left the club, because I'm sure you'll all remember there was some concern about the level of performance, shall we say, that he was putting into the game once we'd been relegated after the 2010-11 season. And of course, he was off to Tottenham, wasn't he, after a handful of games. And it was a difficult one because, as we'll recall, I think he lost his father, didn't he, shortly before that. And his dad was a big Spurs fan, so he kind of felt, well, he's he maintained that he felt, sort of he had to go and join Spurs. But I think that's a really good description. I've never sort of really thought about it that way before. But yes, I totally get where you're coming from with Parker there. The fact that he never really seemed to belong anywhere. But some good suggestions there, actually. Thank you, team. Scott Parker coming up a couple of times. Steve Lomas, Don Hutchison, all players that we could never really get on with. I've got a couple, actually, thinking about it. One of them would have been our old friend Yossi Benayoun, who seemed to be quite frequently injured for West Ham, but would always miraculously recover when there was an international game looming on the horizon. Even if it was like 3 or 4 days later, it seemed to be quite a common occurrence. And, it sort of made me question his commitment to the club anyway. And another one who I never really sort of got on with around the similar sort of time, maybe a few years later, Freddie Piccion. Came from Portsmouth. Just didn't think he was a West Ham player. Just didn't think he was good enough for us. I mean, I think he scored something like 1 goal in 30 games, didn't he, from Portsmouth? But he didn't do too bad. I seem to remember him was it at Everton he scored and then got sent off for taking his shirt off? Yeah. Is that right? Was it at Goodison Park?
Yeah, he went into the crowd rather than took his shirt off. And he climbed up the wall, and he already had a yellow. And he climbed up the side and was giving it all that. And,
Yeah, well...
He also scored the greatest...
I was so pleased. Yeah, sorry. I was ever so pleased that he got sent off. Plonker. Yeah. And that's the difference between a professional and an amateur, if you know what I mean. He'd certainly be on the list.
Good.
That's for sure.
Yeah. Sorry, Rio, you were going to come in there with something about Piccion?
Yeah, Freddie's biggest contribution to West Ham is he scored the greatest goal that we've ever scored in our entire history.
Yep.
Up at Rico. It's so good that I've never found any footage of it online. And this is a time when every goal available, ever scored nowadays, is available.
Right.
Yeah, I can't do it justice, but he kind of fell over. It kind of bounced up, flicked off his head, off his arse, and just trickled in. But what a finish! What a finish!
Now we know where.
Didn't Gnome score one of his rare goals that day? Am I getting you? It was a bizarre game.
It's when they had the minute silence that got kind of interrupted by people not knowing what was going on. I think we went 1-0 down or 2-0 down, but we pulled it back.
1-0 down and 1-2-1. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Carlton got the first, but Freddie's goal was a masterstroke.
I think that sums up my reasoning. It sounds like the perfect reason. In terms of players that I wish we'd signed, this might be a bit controversial, but I thought Joey Barton could have done a job for us for a couple of years, a few seasons ago. No one's going for that one. And more recently, I think James Maddison, when he was at Norwich, we could have gone for him there. And I think we really missed a trick there. He's turned into a fabulous little player for Leicester. And has he been called up for England yet? Or not? I'm not sure if he has, but he's certainly not far off it if he hasn't. So, lots of suggestions. Anyway, a couple more from the forum. Big George says, I was never able to forgive Paul Mariner for signing for Ipswich instead of us when he left Plymouth. Great player. He's the one I wish we'd got. And Doc Ball says, I wanted us to sign Tony Adams, which was realistic at the time. I used to go to Princess Bowl with my dad, who played in a league there, and met Tony when he was a schoolboy on Arsenal's books. We'd just beaten them in the cup. Tony's dad was a hammer, and without really knowing anything about him as a player, you could just tell he was only going to go one way. I'd now put him down as first choice in a Premier League all-time 11. So praise indeed there from Doc Ball, who certainly knows his stuff.
Madison's got 1 England cap.
What was it? Sorry, Dale?
Madison has got 1 England cap.
One England cap. Oh, so he has. Thank you. Yeah. So certainly one for the future anyway. But can anyone remember how much Leicester paid for him? I don't think it was an awful lot.
Like 10 million, I think, something like that.
Yeah. It certainly wasn't an awfully high figure, and not one that seemed to be out of our price range. But
on Wikipedia, it says that he signed for a fee thought to be around 20 million.
Oh, okay.
A lot of add-ons in that one then
I've got the greatest stat ever about Piccion, by the way.
Go on.
Looking on Wikipedia now. His first Premier League goal for West Ham was a 1-0 win against Spurs in 2010. That goal, and don't shoot the messenger on this one, it was the 10,000th goal scored in the Premier League with a Nike manufactured football.
Well, that is a statistic
no one
and a
can
half.
take that away from him. Pointless.
Well, see, I would look at the information we give you here, folks. All this fantastic, all these amazing stats. What about that one? You certainly wouldn't get that in any other podcast. Anyway, thank you, gentlemen, for your efforts there, for players you wish we'd signed and players perhaps you wish we hadn't have signed. But some good memories and from over the years there. Moving swiftly on, we're going to now. This is a really controversial topic and one that we felt we'd touch on in this week's show. Following a little bit of feedback actually to last week's episode 9. Tone, who was one of the commentators on the YouTube channel, responding to last week's show, asked about the year of formation for West Ham, and he says, what do you guys see as being the start date for West Ham? 1895 is the Thames Ironworks inauguration, or 1900 as West Ham United. Of course, we know the club has just celebrated its 125th anniversary, but technically, is that actually right? Rio, you're a man of great historical knowledge where it comes to the club. What do you think about this issue?
I still maintain it's the 5th of July, 1900. As a kid, when I was growing up, in all the Pliny albums, it said founded in 1900. I'd read a load of books on West Ham, as you do, trying to soak up knowledge about something you love.
Yeah.
Always the 1900s. And I appreciate the Ironworks history, and it's part of us.
Yeah.
But we was never West Ham until 1900. And this whole thing come about as a shock to me back in 95 when Terry Brown, wasn't it, in charge?
Yep.
And he announced that when what was the Creverbrook stand, or the old North Bank, was demolished, and it could be replaced by the Centenary stand.
Yeah.
So I remember turning around to people going, what do you mean? It's going to take 5 years to build. And I was always set. It's the 5th of July, 1900. I'm not having anything else. Yeah. I'm celebrating 125 years in 5 years' time when I can actually go to the game.
Yes, that's very, very, very true. Gnome, what are your thoughts on this one? I mean, you kind of would re-own that we should be, that we should be celebrating 120 years this year rather than 125?
No, I take odds with that.
Okay.
Just purely because as a kid, and I'm obviously a year or two older than Rio. It was always 1895 was drummed into me as a kid, and I guess the way I look at it was that the Shadows that support Man United don't date their club from when they became Man United, and Newton Heath. I've always thought it had been 1895. I mean, I think legally as a separate entity, you're quite right. The West Ham United Football Club Company Limited wasn't set up until 1900.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Just as a kid, it always seemed 1895, and I quite like the idea of being sort of a construct of the 19th century rather than the 20th as well. So. And the first person to sort of make some sort of comment about me being around at the time gets decked.
We still, of course, beat Newton Heath. I think Manchester United was formed in 1902, was it not?
Yeah, they were certainly united well after we were.
Yeah.
Whichever way round you do it.
The earliest United, would that be Sheffield? I know, I'm asking you a big question there.
Yeah.
Sheffield, perhaps. I think it might well be. DL, West Ham United or Thames Ironworks? When did the club begin?
I'm going to go with Gnome, and I'm going to say 1895, only because I've been on HMS Warrior, and what a fine ship it is, and to have that be part of the history of our club, I'm more than happy. That's what I say to my little Spurs fans, when they say, "Oh, you ain't got no history," and I go to Portsmouth Dockyard, mate, and you'll see our history. Your club ain't got none of that, so shove it. No, so 1895 for me, Thames Ironworks. What a wonderful, wonderful, innovative company, and we were formed out of that. So proud, so proud.
Yeah, I think actually there's is it Canning Town where there's the memorial that begins with 1895. Don't know if you're aware of that, but it's
in the Memorial Ground, isn't it? Just outside.
Yeah. So okay, well, 2-1 in favour of 1895. Pinky, it's possibly for your turn to have the deciding vote here. West Ham United began 1895 or 1900.
2016. History begins.
Very good. Okay. Very good.
I'm never ever letting them off the hook for that one. Okay. Yeah, everything before it, I've just erased from my memory bank. You know, no one decent played for us before 2016. No. You know, we had no history. We had nothing to be proud of.
Got no fans.
But now look at us. Yeah. 1895 for me, and yeah, all the niceties about what we were called and all the rest of it. I'm not getting into. My bigger concern is where football's going now.
Yep.
And I've got on the telly here now, RB Leipzig, 11 years old.
Yes.
And they're in the Champions League semi-final. Now, we can dismiss them as the German MK Dons.
Yep.
But that's the future model. That's football going forward.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a worry for me, in terms of if they can do that in Germany with a so-called 50+1 ownership structure and that sort of thing, and they are utterly hated for it.
Mm-hmm.
But where one wealthy person goes, others follow, and their opponents are like PSG, and again, that's just another money club. We touched them earlier, Bayern Munich. That is essentially the state of Bavaria's team. And I think there's a general trend that is proving very difficult to stop. So for me, whether it's 1895 or 1900 for us, not that important in my head, but the general direction of travel for football is worrying. And all clubs, I think, need to think about why they exist, who they're there to serve and represent, and is it really just going to boil down to who the richest person in the world is? At what point does the bloke that owns Amazon buy a Premier League club or a Bundesliga club and just said, I'm going to chuck money at it? So I know I've gone off a bit of a tangent there, but I'm genuinely concerned about the direction football's taking.
There was an interesting stat the other day that I saw in some website or other that stated when Leipzig were formed, Paris Saint-Germain had finished something like 16th in Ligue 1 in that particular season, and it just goes to show, doesn't it, that it's sort of highlighting your point there really about the almost obscene investment from sovereign funds or whatever, and other large scale corporations. And I suppose the question is, do we see West Ham ever going that way?
I hope not. I really hope not. And do we really want to be owned by the Qatari investment fund and win trophies purely because they're putting in sovereign state wealth?
Yeah.
Is that what we want? Not for my money.
I think it's what some people want, isn't it? Because we've had this discussion on the forum before, and a lot of people have said that's the model they would like to see the club emulate. So I suppose it comes down to, what do you want out of your football? Do you want something traditional that harks back to the community, or is it just a case of winning silverware? I mean, we've seen what's happened at Newcastle in the last few weeks with petitions and all sorts aimed at the Premier League for vetoing or essentially vetoing the Saudi effort to buy the club. I mean,
honestly, my view is I think we all need to grow up a bit,
yeah,
and say, do you know what? We think life's hard being a bottom half of the Premier League club.
Yep.
Good luck supporting Macclesfield Town. Good luck supporting Rochdale, Southend United, whoever it may be. Yeah. You know, I think we're already in a very privileged position.
Yep.
And buying our way to any kind of a trophy, not for me. No.
Okay.
You know, where's the history in Red Bull Leipzig? They haven't got any. It's just rubbish.
Yes, there is none, of course, but I guess they're making it now, aren't they? In the what's the score, by the way? Are there any goals yet?
2-0 by the sovereign wealth fund that is Paris Saint-Germain. Yeah.
Just as an aside here, I've actually managed to locate some United statistics.
Oh, good stuff.
And the oldest United club were Sheffield, who formed in 1889. What happened was that the Wednesday club moved out of Bramall Lane, and the people who owned the ground feared that they were going to lose some revenues to set up their own club.
Yeah.
So that was Sheffield United. The second lot were Newcastle, who renamed themselves from Newcastle East End following a merger with Newcastle West End. And that was 1892. We were third in 1900. And then Newton Heath changed in 1902. Followed in order by Carlisle, Southend, Hartlepool, Scunthorpe, Leeds, Torquay, Rotherham, Peterborough, Colchester, Cambridge, and Oxford in 1960. There you go.
Excellent. More. There you go. Look at these stats we're throwing at you. All this for nothing. This is amazing.
And Wiki states that West Ham United formed 1900, and it says in the notes, ball runner was Thames Ironworks in 1895, but this needs updating. It says, however, the club does not use this in their foundation date, which we all know is rubbish because we do.
Yeah.
Well, they do, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's good stuff. Good stuff. Well done, team. Some pucker on the ball and live research as we're going along. Always good to see. For the record, I'm going to side with Rio on this one and go for 1900 because that's the year. It may be growing up in a different era to some others, but that's the date I always saw as trying to be kind there, Gnome, by the way.
well, Graham, you're wrong.
And how can you possibly argue with that? So there you go, 1895 or 1900. The debate is well and truly, well, we just haven't solved it at all, have we? Because we're pretty much split down the middle, 3-2. But let us know what you think. Our address, of course, the email for your feedback is modpod@kumb.com. That's modpod@kumb.com. 1895 or 1900 for you. Let us know. Let us know what else you think about the show. Have you got any other comments you want to make?
I think the club are going for 1895 because it's cheaper than 1900.
Yes. But well, we know obviously the club have gone for 1895 because we are celebrating apparently the 125th anniversary this year, and I have also sold plenty of 125th anniversary posters this year. So I'm quite happy to forget everything I said about 5 minutes ago and go with that, based purely on that alone.
I mean, do we drift into the debate of should all records before they change the offside rule be expunged from the history books? You know,
what before they changed it in favour of Liverpool?
Well, yes, no, that's exactly what I meant. You know, and can I just say we have been on air an hour and 45 minutes.
Oh
and
my!
There's not been a mention of a referee yet. So
gosh,
let's
well, you just killed that.
You know, let's feel Gnome's pain
that,
tonight because I know he's holding it back.
And we also I should perhaps stress I've not criticised the ball once. I don't think yet tonight, have we? So
speaking of ball, it's like a little bit of live gossip coming up that I've just seen on Twitter.
Yes, sir.
From a journalist called Peter O'Rourke. Don't know how reliable he is, but he's got 91 and a bit followers. Apparently, Norwich are closing in on a £5 million deal with Jordan Hugill.
Ooh, that's an
I am available to drive him there tonight. Okay, so I'll chuck in a tank of diesel. Yeah, I'll get a flask of coffee, whatever it takes. Yeah, some of those like Mr. Kipling cakes that you little ones. And
is that the last
he
of the
can even
Hallow
pick
being
the
paid
music.
off? Yeah?
Yes. Pete O'Rourke, remind me, Dale, is he the male? I can't place him now.
It just says Sports Pete. He's a freelance journalist.
Freelance, is he?
DM's open.
Okay.
LinkedIn. He's got a LinkedIn. Let's check it out.
While you're checking that out, DL, 5 million for Hugh Gill. Good deal or not?
5 million? I'd take the fiver, mate.
Anything we can get, basically.
Yeah.
Rio, good deal for West Ham, that one. I mean, what did we pay? 9 million, wasn't it? And
9
he
million,
never started a Premier League game.
Yeah, he just took the last 2 years. We bought Hugh Gill and a Jetty, 17 million quid. We've basically got potentially a pittance from in a position we were absolutely desperate for.
Yeah.
It's not good business.
No, when you put it that way, it certainly isn't. No, we know QPR were interested. I mean, he did quite well. I think he scored 13 or 14 goals at Loftus Road last year. Are you surprised they haven't moved for him?
Yes and no. I mean, I don't think they're exactly over endowed with cash at the moment.
Yeah.
And I think reading between the lines, I think we'll sell him to anyone who can stump up cash on the nail.
Yeah.
As I say, I mean, the Jetty transfer fee, I think, didn't touch English soil. I think it just went straight to Frankfurt, didn't it?
Yeah.
And I suspect that because I think that we were 2 payments behind, and they were all about 4 or 5 million. So if this deal goes through, then that's that one out of the way, and then it's it's proper transfer dealing, if you like.
Yeah. then we start from scratch. Pinky, we did just say there we haven't had a go at the board at all tonight. Here's your opportunity, my friend. Rio says 17 million spent on Aieti and Hugh Gill in the last 2 years. Neither of them have started a Premier League game. Fill your boots, my son.
Yeah, I mean, obviously this will turn into the breakfast edition if we start going on about the club's recruitment policy or strategy. Sometimes I think we just sign players because, we've got 4 million quid left, so let's sign somebody.
Yeah.
They'd be better off leaving the money in the bank, thinking about what they're trying to do. But we've said it all before. You change your manager every 5 minutes. You say you're going to have a director of football, then you allow the manager to appoint his own boss in that position. Then you get rid of him. Then you get a head of recruitment who you sack in dubious circumstances in the Tony Henry affair.
Yeah.
It just goes on and on. It's a catalogue of errors. And Hugo, I could see why we bought him at the time. And it was kind of like, if there was a chance that we were going to slip into the Championship, he just might be the sort of striker that would get you out of there. And he's done well at QPR, and you can see why Norwich have a similar thought process.
Yeah.
But is that really what you want to be doing in the January transfer window? Signing a striker in case you go down in the second half of the season? Or do you actually say, now how about spending 40 million quid and getting a striker that's guaranteed to keep you in the top flight?
Yeah.
And it just keeps coming back to the lack of finance in the club. The fact that we haven't got enough money in the club to run the club properly.
Mm-hmm.
So we do a rights issue, but then 3 weeks later we borrow 40 million pounds again. We keep missing payments and players. The club has got a serious problem with its finances.
Yeah.
And you join the dots, and it's is 80 grand or whatever we pay Jack Wilshere a good use of £4 million a year?
Mm-hmm.
Was the money on a Jetty good use? And we just waste so much money.
Yeah, I guess the point there is that in addition to the £17 million transfer fees, even if we're paying them 50 grand a week, which I think is roughly what both Hugo and Aieti were thought to be on, you're looking at another £7 million per season going up, spaffed up the wall there, to quite a popular phrase.
Do football clubs only negotiate in multiples of 10 million or 10 grand a week? What's wrong with paying a player 49 grand a week or 48,750 a week? You know, why does it suddenly become 50 grand and then 60 and 70?
Yeah.
Between 50 and 60 is 10 grand.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not that good at maths, but I reckon 10 grand a week's a fair wedge. And who does these deals and on what basis? They're chucking money around on ordinary players, and it's wasted money. And should we be a club that's taking punts on players? Jetty, Hugel? I don't think so. And I think it's a poor recruitment strategy by a board that are, frankly, not up to the job. And I don't want to be rude about them, but do other clubs have these issues?
Well, it's we'd have to watch some other clubs' podcasts, I suppose, wouldn't we? The equivalent of the KUMB Mod Pod to find that one out. I mean, as you say, we've certainly had a few punts playing for the club over the years. That's punts, Mrs. Jones, with a P. I should stress. DL, did you manage to dig any info out about Mr. O'Rourke there while we were chatting away?
No, I needed a week.
Okay, good stuff. Clear the decks, as it were, just in time for me to wrap up. Really, I mean that's about it for tonight. There's some other stuff that we're going to hold over for next week because we've all got beds to go to at some point. Just a couple of little things. Got some big news for you, actually, haven't we? This Thursday, we're doing an extra show. We're going to be doing the KUMB Awards results live from our YouTube channel. Once again, this Thursday night from 7:30, the gang will be joining up once again to bring you the results of all 12 categories that you've been voting on during the past 2 weeks. Loads and loads. We've had around 16,000 entries altogether to the 23rd KUMB Awards. Started way back in 1997 when we were all so young. Long time ago now, at least it seems that way. But here we are, the 23rd year. And yes, Thursday night from 7:30, we're going to be bringing you the results of this year's poll live via our YouTube channel. Links will be on the KUMB forum. And of course, if you are subscribed to our channel, you can be notified when we go on air. So if you haven't subscribed already, hit that little thing down. Where is it? It's around there somewhere, the subscribe thingy. And get subscribed and be notified. So Thursday night, join us at 7:30 live. Just a little side point on the KUMB Awards this week. We've been putting the votes to our social media channels. The top three, or the most three popular categories in terms of voting numbers were in reverse order. Number 3 was the worst player of the year. Number 2 was the best signing, but the most popular category, which received the most votes, the worst signing category. And I'm sure you don't really need much of a prod to work out who's won that one. But if you do, you'll have to wait until Thursday night to find out. Join us, as I say, from 7:30. The team will be back here for that one Thursday night. Couple of other things before I wrap up. KUMB forum stuff. We are looking for volunteers for a brand new series we're bringing you on the KUMB YouTube channel. The KUMB Mastermind Show. Dun, 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 dun. That's the one, What was the guy's name?
Of
course it was.
Didn't he own us? Wasn't he the bloke that owned us?
That was his brother. That was his little shiny-headed brother. Yes. I'm thrown off totally now. The KUMB Mastermind Show. We are going to, the way it's going to work is we are going to be putting forum members and also some members of our own team here head-to-head. In two-minute rounds, exactly the same way the TV show operated, if you've seen it before. Your first round will be your choice. You can choose something, your own category to be asked questions on. So an area of expertise about West Ham. I'm sure we've all got our own ideas what we'd like to choose for that. And then, of course, a 2-minute general knowledge round. And the winner of the head-to-head goes through to the next round. The winner, of course, the one with the most points. Presenting the show will be Steve Page, known as Billy Bond's Ballbags, on KUMB Forum. And that will be coming very soon. But, of course, before then, we do still have spaces. So if you'd like to take part, if you'd like to show your prowess where West Ham general knowledge is concerned, jump onto the KUMB forum, find the thread, and let us know you want to be involved, and we'll enter you for the draw, which will be happening as soon as all the places are taken. So keep an eye out for that. The KUMB Mastermind Show. We'll find out who is the brains, who knows the most. I've got a couple of favourites in there. I think we've got My WHUFC and Doc Ball. Pinky, I think, was actually one of your nominations.
Yeah, I mean, you know, he'll trounce anyone. Honestly, you know, he reads all the books. It's astonishing. Yeah, I've never actually read a single book on West Ham United, by the way.
Well,
you coloured in a few though.
we'll see how that pans out when.
And on that note, can I just say a big off to Gnome? Yeah.
DL, moving swiftly on. DL, how do you fancy your chances on the first series of the KUMB Mastermind? What do you reckon? Think you've got a chance of pulling it off?
I ain't got a chance in hell. Blimey. Just about remember what happened last week, let alone anything else. No, look, as I said on the group chat, I don't want to do it. I'm just going to humour you and humiliate myself and lose all any cred that I've got hanging on by a bit of string. That's just going to go. No, if there might be one or two I'd answer, but I'm going to be honest. I'm going to make myself look a tit.
Not at all. I mean, after all, it is just a bit of fun. It isn't, of course, meant to be taken seriously anyway. And if you want your specialist chosen subject to be things that happened at West Ham since Saturday, you go for it, my friend. We can do it. I'm sure we can find you 10 questions.
That's going to be about my list. It's the bit in the 90s when most of my time in the 90s and the early 2000s, I took so many drugs I can't remember.
I think some of the football that was on show during the time you probably needed to get through it. But,
whoever designed some of our away kits in the 90s, definitely.
Yes, the word ecru springs to mind.
Yes.
Rio, what's your specialist chosen subject going to be? Have you sort of put any thought into this one yet?
Not really. I imagine someone might suggest one for me, but I've got a couple of things. Steve Omis's goals. Ian Bishop haircuts. I don't know. There's a few things floating around up here.
There's some good ones. Don't forget, I've got to find 10 questions on whatever you choose, so please don't make it too obscure. Gnome, how about you? What's your any thought as to your specialist chosen subject for the mastermind event?
I'd probably go for something in or around the 70s, I suppose. You know, I saw my first game in '68, so you know, it was sort of '68. Sort of the '70s were when I was sort of absorbing stuff like that, like a sponge, you know, and remembering things like Mordecai Spiegeler.
Yes, it's quite bizarre, isn't it? How you remember stuff from many years ago. A friend and I were speaking earlier this at the weekend about FA Cup finals from the 1970s and how we could remember pretty much everyone who scored and all the results, but I couldn't tell you who won it 3 years ago. It's
exactly the same.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's also a reflection of how the FA Cup has become in the I guess slightly devalued in the football calendar.
Yeah.
You know, you'd get up at 9 o'clock in the morning, grandstand would come on even earlier than usual, and you'd have cup final, it's a knockout, and cup final mastermind, and anything with any sort of vaguely tenuous link to the two clubs.
Yeah.
You know, you'd sit there watching it all, wouldn't you?
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, Pinky, were you a fan of those? I mean, I seem to remember you'd get comedians as well, wouldn't you, from each club? They'd somehow find a comedian from well, every club that took part. Even Southampton, I'm sure they found one from back. I don't know who that would have been, but were you a fan of the FA Cup build-ups?
I mean, you know, it's just again a symbol of the extent to which in domestic, certainly football, the Premier League has crushed everything, in and around it, and the FA Cup, tragically, is essentially a nothing competition now, which is a real shame. Yeah. Just going back to the 1895 to 1900 debate.
Yes, sir.
All right. The West Ham, the excellent West Ham stats website, yeah,
Yep.
which I would encourage everyone to look at, so to speak.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful website. First game played, 1st of September, 1900. They're not mucking around, they're calling it. That's forget what Terry Brown thinks, yeah. They're calling it there. And I'm just looking at the total games played, 5,525. I stand next to a bloke at away games who's missed 4 games since 67.
Wow.
Home or away. That must be nearly half of the club's games in that time. You know.
Quick nod to who's that, Pinky? Who's that you?
Sorry?
Who's that you're referring to?
Danny Gray is a terrific chap and good friend of mine. I'm going to give him a call in a minute and just say, is it 1895? Was it 1900?
see what he says. See if we can get him on Mastermind as well. He might prove to be a formidable opponent for anybody.
You get him and Keith in the car on an away run. Yeah, honestly. Do you remember that game in 1971? And they'll name the bloody crowd. They're merciless. And good lads. Good lads.
Anyway, thank you guys. If anyone out there wishes to join the Universally Challenged for our Mastermind series, do come onto the KUMB forum, find the Mastermind thread, pop your name on there, and you can get involved and join in what I'm sure will prove to be quite a fun event. Anyway, that is it for tonight. We are done. Oh, there's one more thing I need to do. The Prediction League. We did a Prediction League for the final 9 matches of the season for Project Restart. I did a little bit of a confession. We touched on this last week. I had to edit the section out because I got the results totally wrong. I said that our special guests had won the Prediction League. They didn't win the Prediction League. It was one of our own. Bristol Hammer won the Prediction League with 12 points from those 9 matches. Sadly, Bristol Hammer isn't here tonight, so I'm going to call upon DL actually to come to the stage. He didn't know anything about this, and say a few words on behalf of Bristol Hammer. So a little round of applause, everybody, for DL as he gives a little speech on behalf of Briz to round us up tonight.
I'm assuming Bristol Hammer's appealing his A-level results now on the same basis, is he?
Okay, I'm going to appeal the 2006 Cup final on that basis.
DL, over to you, sir.
Really, all we can say is, right, is thank you very much for my prize, and I'm very glad and I'm very happy. Thanks a lot.
I've got to go and have some Kelly's Cornish ice cream now.
Thank you, DL, for making that speech on behalf of our competition winner tonight. Well done, of course, to Briz for winning that with a total score of 12 points. Bringing up the rear, of course, Mr. Palermo, you should know better, sir. Of course, I don't think you was being entirely serious with all of your predictions, were you? But
I mean, my stock bet is 5-0 every week, and okay, so I might get it right once every 12 or 13 seasons, but what a feeling when you do. And all the lads that piled on the Leon the other night, 11-1, yeah.
Nice result.
Loads of my mates piled it on. 50 shots on it, and it comes 600 quid.
Happy days. Somewhere out there must be someone who predicted Barcelona to lose 8-2, and you just sort of wonder how much they would have taken from that particular game. I'm sure you wouldn't have got odds, but anyway, we
haven't sold it up yet.
Yeah. But that is it for tonight. So my thanks to Gnome, to Rio, to Pink Palermo, and to DL. For coming on what was episode 10 of the Mod Pod. We shall see you again. As I said, we'll be back on Thursday for the KUMB Awards Live, and next week for another Mod Pod. Until then, one thing left to say. We can't do this.
Hey, Irons.
Come on, you Irons.
Hey, Irons.